Welcome to the F&D Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Alex Danner, and the owner and founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with fencing and decking businesses. And today I have a really exciting episode for you. I have a deck industry legend and a familiar face and name for, I think, anybody that's been involved with the deck industry in some capacity. He has a very long list of accolades. He was founded and grew a very successful business in Georgia and actually successfully exited that business. He's a former member of the board of directors of NADRA and still involved with that too. And recently on the cover of the Deck Specialist magazine for September, October of this year. So if I know I put the name in the podcast title, so it probably already, kind of ruined the surprise, but I'm sure a lot of people listening were able to get an idea of who's talking. But today we have none other than Bobby Parks, and Bobby's going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff with us today. But Bobby, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Alex. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. It was great to meet you at Deck Expo and kind of get to know you. So I really appreciate you allowing me an opportunity to be on your podcast.
Yeah, of course. And I'm looking forward to this one. So I think listeners are going to learn a lot. And like Bobby just said, we met at Deck Expo, and I've seen Bobby at the various events as I've gotten more and more involved with the deck industry too, but never had a chance to speak with him. And I think I was just walking back from my booth on a random day before the crowd started coming in, and just was like, I felt the need to introduce myself. So we talked for a little while and, seeing if he wanted to be on the podcast, and that's kind of how we got here. So, but yeah, really heard nothing but amazing things about Bobby, from other people in the industry that I've already met. So I knew this would be a good episode and be able to really go through a lot of things that I think will really help out the listeners that, that listen to our podcast. So, Bobby, if we could just start off, just, I guess, introducing yourself a little bit, maybe your story, your background, your history in the industry, and, leading up to starting Peachtree and, all that, anything you'd like to share there would be great.
Okay. Well, if you go way back, as a kid, I was kind of the neighborhood fort and treehouse builder. I liked doing things. I liked building things. I could envision things and try to put them together. And of course, it was all rough stuff. But straight out of high school, instead of going to college, came from a blue collar family. I was just trying to figure out what trade I was going to do. And I really liked building. So right out of high school, went to work with a custom home builder. Really fortunate to go to work with who I did, because I learned a lot the way to build, and I learned how to do things the right way. And it all came to me. Building just came to me really pretty quickly. And by the time I was 23, I had decided to get out on my own. I felt like I would, in the long run, I would accomplish more and, be able to afford the house I was building for others if I maybe was doing it as a subcontractor versus working hourly. So I ended up, over the course of a few years, progressing and framing houses, doing some remodeling, had about a 12-man crew running most of the time. And then I ended up, I was on an apartment job for a couple months. The people that I had contracted from started running into financial issues and was not able to pay me. So it kind of forced me to look for something else that I thought would be temporary. And there was an architect franchise starting up in Atlanta. And I came on board with them as the first crew. A couple of years later, I came in as construction manager and operations manager, VP, and it really exposed me to the basics of business. As a subcontractor, I rode the builder's coattails. I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't understand anything about, what certain things paid square foot and line item and so forth. So I learned a lot there. Became VP, ran it. We had 16 people in the field, 3 designers, did around, I don't know, in that early 2000s to early mid 2000s, probably, the 2.5 million, sometimes a little more than that. But we, in today's dollars, it would be more. And then I left there and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do it for myself. I wanted to do it on my own. And I had other ideas that I wanted to do that we were doing part of those where I was at, but we weren't doing all of them. I wanted to get away from building with pressure treated decking. And I wanted to start, I adopted this philosophy. I wanted to build things that really look like a true extension of the home and incorporate products that I believe would stand the test of time. So I'd already brought in things like aluminum rail in the late 90s that we were getting out of Vancouver, Canada, and even some glass rail, and started using PVC in '04. But when I left and started Peachtree, it was really with a kind of a refined focus on more of the higher end projects, no more pressure treated decking. It was a lot of hardwoods earlier on, and then later on the cap stocks and the PVC decking boards came around, and we started utilizing those. But it was also an effort to build the business more through margin than it was just production. It was about creating these levels of credibility and separation from other people that we're competing with, and growing the business that way.
Yeah. So it basically just became, or maybe in the earlier days, like just margins took a real big hit. So you got kind of tired of that, I'm guessing, and you wanted to find a way to like really become that well-known company to everybody in the area that would pay for that quality, and that way you could increase the margins. Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, I mean, it was, business can be really complex and seem complicated, or they're fairly simple approaches. And my approach was, if I could separate myself and establish myself as a company that specializes in the delivery of these higher end jobs, anybody just looking at that type of job is going to perceive me as less risk. There may be, just say, for example, you and I were quoting a job, and somebody else, they did a good, better, best program, and they came in with a design that was similar to mine, and they were at $28,000. They could look at their website, they see a mixed delivery history. Maybe they hope this person could deliver. I'm 31,000. I'm 10% or more higher, but they look at my delivery history and my photo galleries. They know there's no real gamble with me. If they're willing to pay, they're going to get what they want. And I think, separate myself through, showing the photos on the website, having videos online, having all the reviews, kind of creating that credibility foundation. It separated me and allowed me to go in that direction. And although we had pretty good margins, even back when I had good margins, actually, when I was an architect, they became better for me for what I was doing as Peachtree.
Gotcha. Okay. And I mean, how could you explain kind of how you made that transition, became the one that was doing the bigger projects, or, was just well known as best guy in the area, the one that was doing the best work? I mean, is there any kind of defining moments that you thought like really maybe you consciously did or stumbled into, whatever the case may be, to get to that point, where you were happier with the margins and the projects you were doing?
Well, I had, let me put it this way, I had these ideas and this vision of what a business could be, you know, obviously when I started out, but I came into it at a time that I was kind of handicapped, because 2008, I started Peachtree in 2007, 2008, 2009 was kind of a prolonged recession, and it was a severe recession, especially in Atlanta. And the reality was, I couldn't use photos from all the other 19 years that I had behind me as that was under the architect, because they considered it a violation. I couldn't use it. So that also created an obstacle. And I had an $860,000 goal for sales, my first year. And so, I had some photos, a few that I could use, but the best I could do is tell people, look, if you go back to this website, these are jobs that I was responsible for the delivery on. So that was kind of the very beginning. But no, I think that the trick was to fast track the marketing as fast as I could, create the brand name recognition as fast as I could. And I did that at first through a mix of marketing. I did directories. Marketing back then was a little different than it is now. Directories in some of the targeted neighborhoods. There was these kind of clipper ads that would go out that were widespread, that were actually delivered through the mail, kind of like what people would send out cards today. So it was kind of early type of marketing. But then the website was out there, and it was generating things, generating leads. And I would track all that. But there became a point in time where I had crossed paths with a guy that became a friend of mine, and he was really on the cutting edge of websites and marketing, that sort of thing. And he really educated me. And what happened was, when he took over my website and started managing it, my leads, just were more than I could handle. And so where I had been allocating 5% of almost $50,000 a year, spread out through different marketing approaches, I realized that I could stop all of that and just focus on the website. And now, because I was getting more I can handle, I could start charging consultation fees. So 2010, I started charging. I didn't give free estimates. I would charge just to come out. So really, I was fortunate, and the brand and the leads started pretty quickly for me. I did have one book. It was Home Reports. I think it was. It's kind of like Angie's is now, or whatever Angie's is. I don't know if it's Angie's or it's a different name now. But you know how they had that little kind of credibility type of way of marketing. I was in one of those. So between those, I got all the leads I needed. And when I started charging for the appointments, it probably cut out my leads that I ran by 35%, or at least a third. Because I get rid of the tire kickers. I mean, the people that were serious, I didn't charge them much. I charged $75 for a consultation. And, people called. Some people would say, other people would give us free estimates. Why should we pay you? And I would just say, look at our website, look at our reviews. If you're going to do this type of project, it's going to require quite an investment. I would think it might be worth $75 to you to see what we can do. But if you don't, totally understand it. But it was one of the best moves I ever made.
Interesting. Yeah. So I mean, basically the leads kind of, once you started getting more than you could handle, you're just like, that gave you the flexibility to kind of come up with different strategies to weed them out a little bit better. Like, would you have done that, you think, if you didn't have the lead flow you did?
Well, no, I'd have been afraid to.
Yeah.
It was because I had this, this real surplus of leads. And, and I was not trying to build a big organization at the time. I didn't, it was me kind of running the company and running the leads and supervising the crews. So I had to have a way to kind of manage my time a little better. And that was just one of the ways to do it.
Yeah. 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 So the website, and what year was, you said 2008 or so?
2010. Well, 2007 is when I started Peachtree, and I had a website. It looked good. If you could find it, you'd see some good pictures. Over time, it took a couple years, and there was some compromised jobs that first year to get things built and get things out there, so I wasn't hitting the margins that I wanted to hit that first 12 to 18 months, but I was hitting satisfactory margins. But I was trying to establish a foothold, get a gallery built up, and, get the website working. But it was when Grant, a friend, took it over that, I really saw what a website really could do. And we did things like not just, at that time, it was not that hard, at least for him, to get us towards the top of the first page if someone was doing a search. But we had 10 different jurisdictions we built in. And so whether it was Roswell, Alpharetta, Marietta, Sandy Springs, if anybody did a local search, they would really land on what was equivalent of just a landing page that looked like us and had a picture. But if they clicked on anything, they were in the website. And then we would do things like all the pictures were tagged. I decided I wanted to do some featured job videos, because I noticed when I did video searches, and I know it's different now, Alex, but probably back then, if you did a search for videos in Atlanta, nobody really showed up. So I decided I was going to do these picture videos, and I was going to do these featured job videos. So Grant and I went out, we'd film 3 a day, and I had called a friend that was in marketing at one of the actually was at Fiberon, and I said, would it be worth $1,000 to you if I did a video and put your logo on the video a couple times and mention you? And next thing you know, I'm doing 30 something for 4 different people. So I was going to do these anyway, but brought in a few dollars, And so if you did a web search, we were front and center. If you did an image search, we were 75% of the photos. If you did a video search, we owned it,
Nice. So you're willing to try anything. I mean, you were getting into anything that was, I think from the beginning, and what I've heard even before we started talking, you always seem curious, always willing to try new stuff. And that's led to kind of the gold mine back then. Not many people were really paying attention to it, I don't think. Did you notice any competitors that were really doing anything that, the way you guys were at the website and everything?
Well, some people were doing some of the things, and for me, it was always about trying to figure out how to separate yourself and how to be different, and to look at what's been working and what people do, what's the status quo, and what else is out there that's not being done. Probably what I would consider one of my best competitors would have been John Lee at Deck South. They came up a little behind me, but I remember, I was pretty comfortable where I was at and where I was in that market. And you always take all your competition serious. And you always had these low ballers, which were always cycling in and out too. I didn't
Yeah.
worry too much about that, but he was good. I mean, he was great. And you see, if you go to Deck South's website today, you'll see that, I mean, these guys are doing crazy big
Yeah.
jobs, and so, but
Yeah. Yeah.
competition is good. I mean, the more that you're competing with, the more justified your pricing probably looks to homeowners,
Yeah. Yeah. And if you get complacent, I mean, it's only one way you can go, if you're
Yeah,
not
that's
doing
right.
anything to keep going.
Fast.
So and Bobby, like so you built Peachtree up. I mean, where at its like height, how many crews were you running? What did the business look like?
Well, prior to starting Peachtree and running the other company, I had 16 guys in the field, 3 designers, so I was scrambling all the time. But with Peachtree, it was about growing the margins to a higher percentage and working with less. So, I would only have
Yeah.
6 to 8 carpenters in the field. I had other subs that did all the other parts. We did a lot of porch deck patio combinations. My carpenters stayed on the building side. We had, our regular pool of subs, the painters, roofers, gutter people, electrical, plumber when you needed it, that sort of thing. And and so you're profiting off all these people, and even hardscapes was part of it, because I wanted to be, I didn't want a homeowner necessarily to have to call me to do the deck work, porch work, somebody else to do the other. The customers become overwhelmed having to, when they feel like they got to GC their job. And if you can put it in a nice little package and present it to them, and they know they trust you to kind of make sure everything is being done, you know, in a lot of cases in some markets, it's beneficial.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you can you talk about the process of when you sold Peachtree and how that all happened and how that unfolded?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is with mine, it was not a planned situation. I mean, if you're going to sell a business, most people are going to tell you that over the next couple of years, you need to do this or do that, so you make your business look, more profitable, and more appealing to a buyer. In my case, honestly, I was looking at the possibility of selling it in 2016 because I had been doing it a while. I was kind of looking at some other things that I thought I would like to do. Uh, but it happened because I had a conversation with a friend from New Jersey who I had gotten to know. I think we were on an advisory council together for a manufacturer, and he was talking about moving to Atlanta and asking me what my thoughts were. And I just told him, look, it's a big market. It's a great market, target rich environment. There's a lot of good people here, a lot of competition here. So there's always room for another good player, but be realistic about, how you plan it and budget it, especially for the first 3 years, because it takes a while to get brand recognition, get some traction, you get yourself established. And I just kind of jokingly threw out there, you just buy mine and save yourself the trouble. You'd be getting behind the wheel of a race car that's holding its own right now, and so that kind of led to more conversation, which ended up being creating the sale.
Yeah. And so you weren't even thinking about selling. You just said it just as purely a joke, and he was like, "Okay."
Well, it wasn't really. It wasn't necessarily joking. It wasn't. I wasn't really planning it at the moment. This was 2014, and the way I looked at it is, look, times are good. I'm well past the 2008 and 9 recession. Things are as good as they could be. We're profitable. I'm not in a hurry to get away from it, but I do have other things I like to do, and if I could get what I want and no haggling, and you know, and I'm not going to negotiate price, I'd sell it. And he was a really smart guy. I mean, the truth is, the guy that bought my business is more system smart and better organized than I am personally. I always had somebody in the office that was organized. I wasn't necessarily that person. I looked good because of her, but he was, and so he could fast forward through it, and he saw the benefit. Because for me, or my sale was more buying a brand and a place in the market, well established, good reputation. The crews, the personnel, but it wasn't like some businesses again where they're preparing to sell it.
Yeah. 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 Actually, Greg, that's the owner, I think, right? Or the person who
Yeah, yeah.
Greg. Yeah. I met him at Deck X Live. He was one of the contractors that came out there. So I had lunch with him one day and got to learn a little bit about it. And so yeah, it seems like he's a real bright guy. You know.
Yeah, he's really sharp. I visited with him several months ago. He had a new office that I hadn't seen, so I got to see it. It looked look great. I mean, it looked really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So since then, I mean, you never had desire to go, I guess, create a new business, new contracting business. You were kind of had your fulfillment of that at that point.
Well, the first, of course, when you sell a business, you have a no compete for a little while, but uh,
All right.
I kept my licensing and trademark and all that stuff in place for a couple, 3 years just in case. But I had this idea when I left that I started thinking about, because I had started speaking at some of the deck expos, pool spa and patio show and remodeling show, different places. I started doing these uh, speaking events, or like conference events like you would see at Deck Expo now, on building and business. And so I started thinking, only a small percentage of builders really come to these shows. Most of them just stay in their own little world. What if you could go out and we could find a way to help them be better business people, and go to them in the market? So I started pitching. It was Fortress Railing and Trex, and later, a little bit later, Versatex, about working with them in contract development. But it was something new. Nobody had really done that the way I was talking about doing it. So it was kind of hard to gauge the return on investment. So it took a little while to get some attention there. But then I had this presentation. It was entitled Creating Separation, and it was basically telling how I approached the business, the simple things that I did. I didn't have a marketing degree. I didn't have a building, didn't have a business degree, but I understood enough about it to do things that would work. So I wanted to help the people maybe that were similar to me, that were former subs or just coming into the building side because they had the skill level, that these are things you can do that can help you be successful and be more profitable. So Fortress gave, I contracted with them to do a certain amount of events the first year. And then Trex picked me up for a 3-year run. And at the same time, Versatex had picked me up to do a few Versatex PVC trim. And then the idea of the roadshow came about. And I was also doing some coaching with some contractors, because that was originally my pie chart, was a certain amount of coaching and a certain amount of working, doing things with manufacturers. But the manufacturer side really took up most of it, because I did the roadshow from 2016 to 2023. I did Fortress in 2015, and then 2016, and then I did Trek 17, 18, and 19, where I was literally traveling all over the country, speaking in front of groups of contractors, sharing a simple story and a simple approach. And then 2019, I would be at Trex University when they brought contractors in. So, it went really well. And it gave me an opportunity to do something that I wanted to do, that I thought would work, and it did work.
So wow, okay. So you basically told them that, were you kind of pitching it to them like, I can help these contractors. I have all this, success, and I sold the company, all these things, and you just kind of talk to them saying like, I can help them grow their businesses, and that's going to create a better experience for, if you provide like if Trex or Fortress, whoever provides that service by hiring you, then that's going to make them happier because they're taking the time to bring in people that can help them grow the business. I mean, is that kind of how
Yeah,
it went?
exactly. Right on.
Okay.
You're right on. I mean, my pitch to them was, look, I think if we could make them better business people, they'll be better customers to the lumberyard that we're maybe co-hosting this event, or the distributor, whoever it is, and they'll be a better customer for you, because they'll be better business people, and hopefully we can create some loyalty along the way. And so when I got up in front of people, I didn't get up there and do PK sessions. I didn't get up there and pitch a brand. I got up there and did,
Yeah.
the only thing I might have changed would be, if it was one manufacturer, I'd make sure I was using photos that showed their decking, or their product, instead of, another.
Yeah. Now, I love that, because I mean, I founded Fence and Deck Marketers with, I mean, it's not working with somebody else. I mean, it is, we do work with other manufacturers, but the whole like value first has always been like the very like deep roots of Fence and Deck Marketers. And that's why, we pay, and I have full-time people to edit this show and do the webinars. We have a webinar literally this afternoon. Because I feel like that's the way to go too. It's like, if you're able to help people and people see that and you're giving them helpful insights, like, it's good for the industry. I mean, it's good for everything really, and then in my case, if they need help with it, that's fine. In yours, it's I would say you're more providing that value that they can then use on their business and improve it and then buy more materials, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. And,
Yeah.
one, to be successful and not fail, because the way I looked at it with, especially the decking side is that, they're always out there trying to create new customers, and then they're moving on and trying to add to them, but you have to take care of what you got. You can't
Yeah.
take that for granted, because your numbers may stay the same because you're having drop off,
Yeah.
along with the gain. And so to me, that was part of it. And then with the Versatechs and with the Roadshow, which was a little bit was really different. We were hitting 110, 120 lumber yards a year for almost 7 years. Doing mostly, this pulling this trailer along and doing these demos, but it was all about engaging contractors and supporting and kind of educating the people, the salespeople at the lumber yards, and the contractors too. But with that, I think you know, it did create more brand awareness with them, and they, were when they were great to me and great with me and treated me well. But they gave me a lot of credit for some things too along the way.
Yeah. So how many did you say you're doing a year?
We were doing 110 to 120, even in
Wow.
2020 when COVID was in. And I thought, we had to pull the plug on this. We started late, but we went up into the Midwest because COVID wasn't there yet. And then by the time we got up there, it was okay to go towards New York and different places. And we did 18 weeks of roadshow in 2020. And I never got
Wow.
COVID the whole time I was out. I didn't get it till I was home for 3 weeks, and then I got it.
So it was primarily lumber yards you're going to, and you said like, I mean, more the different groups, I guess. Like, how did I got a million questions, obviously. How did those groups get formed? Like, were they at a lumber yard and just local contractors? I mean, how are
Yeah.
all those groups put together?
Well, Verstech had a great marketing team, and they would create, they had, of course, they're organized like all these other people are. They've got the regional managers, and they've got all their field reps out there in their all areas. So we would travel, I'm in North Carolina now. I moved to North Carolina 2 years after I sold. And so we would start out around the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina and work our way down towards Savannah the first week. And then we'd spend 4 weeks in Florida. We'd start in March trying to let the weather get right in the northern areas. So we would zig and zag around. We might do one a day. Most of the time we would do two a day, at least 3 of those days. So we do 8 or 10 of these sessions a week. I have done 10 when I was up in Canada. And we would literally work our way down to Florida on the east side, and then go back across Orlando, and then go down to the Bradenton and come up to Tampa, Clearwater, then around the Panhandle, end up in New Orleans and then Texas, and then turn north and go, we've done them in Minnesota. Michigan was always great, actually, and hit all around the Northeast. And when so my truck would be gone for a few months at a time. I'd just fly home and rent a car whenever I wanted to do it. And so it allowed me, I feel really fortunate what I've been able to do, because it allowed me to meet so many people and the kind of people I want to be around, the builder types, business types, the owners, managers. It just, and I learned a lot about the distribution side, about the retail lumberyard side. And you notice one thing that's consistent with almost everything in life, and it was all about relationships, the relationships between the contractors and the lumberyard salespeople. But the way it would, I'm sorry, I'm taking a long time with the answer here, but
Oh,
the
you're good.
way it really would happen is they would let all the Versatech reps know that, this week Bobby's going to be there. This week he's going to be at in your area this week. So they'd start planning these events to support their dealers that were already selling product. And then they would market it for a month. They'd have flyers on the wall, on the door, on the counter. They'd send them out with the invoices. I even a couple of times seen them over the urinal. You've made it when you see your picture over a urinal in your phone. So that's how they would plan
Great
it
way.
out. And attendance varied. We averaged. We got in front of several thousand a year, but some places would be have less turnout than others. But it was
Yeah.
overall it was great.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I would have no idea that that many different, like, I guess, sessions, whatever you want to call them, get-togethers, trainings, for lack of better words, were put together in that many, I guess, across the US, or I guess it's primarily the East Coast, right? That you were.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Mississippi, but I didn't really go far across it. It was
Yeah.
that Midwestern. We did some Arkansas, Missouri. Uh, funny, I remember one year we were going to go to, I think it was Columbus, Mississippi, and some other little place. Because used to, when we would go through there, we would kind of follow the coast, towards Mobile and Biloxi and Ocean Springs or whatever it was. Uh, we would stay down there, and I thought, well, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. It was some of the best turnouts ever. It was more of a community kind of feel. We'd have 60 to 70 people there. We did them up in Michigan. We had like 600 in a week, up there. Michigan was always good. So
Gotcha.
wasn't
Okay.
always big city America. A lot of it was kind of the back roads areas.
Yeah. Okay. And then how did that transition into, your involvement with NADRA, or was it at the same time? And how did that all
No,
work out?
NADRA was ongoing. NADRA in 2006. I had crossed paths with, well, I think prior to 2006, I had been providing photos for the early version of the Professional Deck Builder magazine. That was a magazine
Okay.
that used to be Deck Builders magazine. And I happened to send an email one time, and Hanley Wood had just bought Deck Expo and uh, Professional Deck Builder magazine, and that's having that conversation with the new editor is how I got into the writing side. But at that same point, once they had kind of seen what we had done, because I had already built some pretty interesting jobs and had left quite a trail. We built for some celebrities, that sort of thing. They asked me to come out there and be a member of what used to be the opening ceremony for the Deck Expo, and they would have a 4-person panel, and they wanted me to be part of it. Of course, I was terrified to be in front of people and speak, so I didn't really want to do it, but I did it. And that's where I met the first NADRA people. So I wasn't really the beginning at the startup. It was 2006, but that was a year that I kind of met them, and I became involved with them shortly after that. And through the years, I was on the board of directors, but and that was great. The most fun thing I did probably with NADRA was when we had our Georgia chapter. We really grew quite a chapter where all the competitors, not all, but most of them and the better ones would congregate every couple of months, and we'd have our little local meeting and get together. So it was always cool to see all these people that kind of knew who each other were but didn't really know each other. We're all sitting around the table having a beer, having a good time. There was some people that were kind of like skeptical about, they weren't sure about being around their competitors. What's this really about? But once they were there, they loved it. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then I think you kind of started getting more and more involved with NADRA, and I know you did. What were the different titles you had with NADRA over the years?
well, I mean, about titles, but I mean, I was on the board of directors and uh, VP at one point, but I never took over the president side. I felt
Gotcha.
like there were better people that could do that. And then president of the Georgia chapter, and then now I'm involved with them in the Deck Awards. I'm really technically the chairman of the Deck Awards committee, so I work a lot, especially with Margie, on kind of putting that together. Margie and Mindy and Heather and Jen, they all really do the heavy lifting. I just kind of come in there and we kind of review things, but they put together a lot, which is way more involved than people might think. You may think, well, we want to
Yeah.
start our own little Deck Awards. I'm telling you, when you look at what it really takes to do it, especially to the scale that we're doing it at, all the systems you have to have just to, the judging manuals, which is involved, but not nearly as involved as the actual system where the judges come in and vote and you tally things. So it's quite an undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to, I guess, think that way when you go to the events. They're very polished. I mean, really had a blast. I brought my wife last year, and yeah, it's nobody, I guess, thinks of all the inner workings and how to get all those pieces put together, all the dinners and, the starting of, or the first evening, the cocktail hour, all that stuff. I mean, it is a really, really impressive event. And I think you do all kind of the announcing too, like you're the speaker for the event, announcing, or at least the primary one to announce the winners, I believe.
Yeah, which is a real honor because when you look at the group and the people that are there and the jobs are being entered and the contractors and involved, it's really an honor to be able to do that now. And it's so yeah, I get the privilege of doing that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would love to just kind of talk about it. As I was telling you before we started recording, we brought a lot of NADRA winners on here. And I wanted to kind of dig into try to find some similarities with, people that were winning and give anybody some advice for how to submit or and something I did find is, there were people that were winning for the first time and or submitting for the first time and winning. And that probably would pop into my head if I was submitting, thinking like, oh, I'm not going to win anything if I'm first time and there's all these other crazy big companies, this or that. So I was hoping it would get more people to come in and want to, join NADRA or just be part of the, be more interested in the event, whatever the case may be. So I feel like this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of see, how you feel about it. Is there anything you recommend for people that are submitting? I mean, anything specific that gives you a better chance, anything like that?
Well, I mean, look, it can be intimidating when you start looking at some of the categories, especially the higher dollar cost and the upper
Yeah.
end jobs. And there we love having first time winners. You'll see people that are winning every year, but these people are just getting better, and there was a reason they won the first time, and they're in there. But it can be one, the contest is totally legit. Every year there's always somebody that's not happy. Usually it's not the winners, but it's someone else. They don't think, but what people really should know. I mean, one, I would never have gotten involved with my role in this if there was anything less than total integrity behind the contest. So,
Right. Right.
it's a situation where we have a pretty long list, and especially this year, we are really strong with judges. Their qualifications and all that. And the judges never know who each other are. They all, when they vote, all their groups, it kind of gets tallied in computerized tallying, and we'll spit out the judges. We do a 1 to 10 point scoring system, and it's divided into tenths. So last year, for example, I think there was one category. There were actually 3 or 4 that were close, but there was one that was 1 through 4th place. I mean, there's really 3 that get awards, but say 1 through 4, there was only like a 1.5 or 1.4 difference between those top guys or
Wow.
top contractors. But I would encourage people to be in there because one, whether you win or not, just the fact that you probably got a job in there, and that especially if you come to the event, you're around the right kind of people. It's inspiring. I think
Yeah.
what we do at NADRA and combine that with social media, I think it fast tracks the progression of builders as far as a quality standpoint compared to earlier years when I was involved in it, because you see what's going on, you get these new ideas. And we especially want people to enter more in the wood side, because if you look at the amount of decks being built, there's still, I don't know what the total dollars are, the total, job count would be, but decks are still the big percentage of the builds out there, and the smaller, simpler ones are probably accounting for a higher percentage of actual builds. So we'd like to see more people in that, 25 to 50, 25 and under, the smaller jobs that would enter, because quality is quality, and so we'd love to see people in there. We don't want people to be intimidated. I mean, you can look at the winners, but look at what you do. Do as good, be creative as you can be, and enter it and come. You could come if you didn't enter. I think it'd be beneficial there, but we would love to see more people involved. NADRA is kind of our only voice in the industry when it comes to having people that are involved in the code. People don't realize that there's these ICC meetings where they're adopting different things into the code for deck building, and all building, but deck building included. And if there was no one up there to kind of voice concerns or to run a little bit of interference, deck builders would be doing a lot more than they want to do on every build. It's already pretty complicated. So there's benefits there. You can go to NADRA.org and you can kind of see what NADRA is all about. But please don't be intimidated. One is we'd love to see your jobs, and you're probably doing better than you think. You probably hold your own more than you think, and you would be around a great group of people if you were to attend or be a part of NADRA.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. I've said on other podcasts, like you have to be in the room. Like if you're, there's so many guys out there that are just struggling really hard or, just burning their margins down so they're not making much money. I mean, being in that room and seeing what's possible is a huge, huge deal. Like, and just conversing with, I mean, guys like Bobby or some of the other guys that are just winning tons of awards. We had Sean McAleer on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, all these guys are there, that there's a ton of guys in there that built what you want for your business. And, why would it make any sense not to be in that room? When you think about it like that, like, why would you not want to be associated with people like that, or, be able to have those conversations? It's a really, really big deal, and something that I learned, I guess, after probably too long with my agency, was doing the exact same thing and getting in that room and talking with other owners that own marketing agencies. And that's when I started just chipping away and, learning from their mistakes or the things that they succeeded with. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. And I say tons of years. I mean, just countless years, I would imagine, if I would have tried to figure it out myself. So yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
you're right.
Yeah, I think you have to be in a room like that. I mean, if you're in the industry, there's really nothing you can lose. It's not like NADRA's that expensive either. It's not like it's
Oh,
that bad. But I'm just curious because I'm not a deck builder. I've worked on my deck at home and some basic maintenance and stuff, but I'm not nowhere close to the worst deck builder that probably shows up to those events. So just curious, like, what do you look for when you're judging it? I mean, when you're looking at the pictures, I mean, I always kind of wondered, some guys take these amazing photos, some probably don't take great pictures. I mean, what are you looking at? Especially, let's go to say that, $25,000 to 50,000 or under 25. Like, what are you looking at precisely that gives you that really high total that would make you a winner?
well, there's different categories. When the judges get it, they've got their point system. They're going to get that file. They do not know who the builder is. There's nothing in there that indicates who the builders are. We screen all that out every year, so there's no logos on it. So they're looking. They got these 5 different points, and now, and I know this, but I'm not going to be able to think of it. But it's it judged on aesthetics, on oh man, I wish I had it in front of me. I could tell you, but there's basically a short list of areas where the judges make their judges and they rate their score one through 10, and then they'll put their tally on, and then they'll move on. And
Okay.
what we ask judges to do is when they go through there and judge is to come back in their top 5 or 6 jobs that it turns out according to their scores, their individual scores, are going to be in contention, is to go back and really spend some time on those jobs. Don't maybe come back another day, because they have a certain about 8 days of time to judge these, and judge, take another look at them and fine tune their scoring so it's exactly the way it should be. But
Yeah.
basically, if you can be creativity, if you're creative with the job, you're clean from a craftsmanship standpoint. There's no flagrant code violations on what you're submitting.
Yeah.
Basically clean, you that's what you want to do, and you want to take good jobs. You don't do it with clutter. You don't leave a ladder on there. You don't have extension cords on there. You blow the leaves off. If and you can take, I mean, you could get a professional. Some of these guys do get pros to take the pictures, but if you take a picture with your iPad and you just do some simple little edits, brighten it up, add, exaggerate the color a little bit, whatever you need to do to make it look like it should really look, uh, that's, just turn in good photos. And you can do videos as well. We do verification now, like we ask for a copy of the contract. Judges don't see this, but from just a verification standpoint, we see it. It's on the file so that we know that if this job is entered in a category, it really was contracted at that. It's not that people can't play games. I mean, people can do what they want, but we do everything we can to make sure it's legit. You have to have licensing, you have to have your insurance, you have to be a legitimate contractor and a member to enter.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
always wondered that.
I would,
Okay.
sorry,
No, you're
I
good.
was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, anybody wants to reach out to me and talk about that or contact me, my email, you can find me on Instagram, or shoot me an email. I'd be glad to, or call me. I'd be glad to talk to you more about anybody more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And very generous of you. I mean, I always wondered that with, like, a California deck versus, like, I don't know, whatever state. I'm guessing California is one of the highest, if not the highest, like, prices. versus a state that's much cheaper to build a deck. Has that ever become problematic? I mean,
Well, it's something, but we don't know how you really manage that. There's no doubt you can build something in uh, rural areas, the Southeast or the
yeah,
Midwest, that are going to, that job might be 75,000 or 60,000 there, and it's going to be 80,000 in other markets. It's always that potential,
yeah, yeah,
and we can't really do anything about that. I
yeah.
mean, we do.
I don't know how you manage that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Okay.
do have, the thing for the Canadians because we know the dollar amount. So there is that allowance for the dollar on their entries.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But we can't, to go in and, it's a good question on your part, but we haven't figured out a real way to
Yeah.
counter
Yeah.
that. Because
I don't know how
some
you
people,
would.
here's the bad thing. We've had jobs entered through the years. If you watch most of NADRA, you'll look at these jobs and you'll see them entered and you'll think there's no way that job should have been in that category. They're either they don't know how to charge and they're a bad business person, or they're not really shooting straight with what the job is, and there's more to life and more to business than winning awards. I had a guy, I was up in Connecticut when I was doing the roadshow, and he saw my trailer at the Hilton Garden Inn, and we ended up having lunch, and he was saying, I do a lot of jobs. It's all kind of cookie cutter stuff. But he said, I'm real profitable. I make a lot of money. He said, but I never do anything that I could enter to get an award. And I said, well, Mike, what would you rather have? I said, would you rather have all that money in your bank account, or would you rather have
Yeah.
awards on the
Seriously.
wall? So some people go crazy. I mean, they really will compromise job cost to build this design or to put these features in it. And most of them, is really some of the better ones, they like winning these awards, but their business is not based around trying to win these awards. They'll build their jobs, they'll charge their dollars, they don't give things away. And then
Yeah.
if they've got projects that they enter that could compete, they'll put them in there.
Yeah. 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 I would say that's a smart move. I mean, enter and see if you can win some stuff, but don't sacrifice the money you get in your pocket for it. Yeah. So, and I was curious, like you said, I know taking good pictures. So do videos help a lot too? If you have, I mean, really good, videographers, professionals that come out and make a really nice video, does that help at all in like determining, getting selected?
Videos are key in all areas. I mean, sometimes you can't take, I mean, a picture doesn't show it. And so I think a video is great. I mean, if you got a
Yeah.
video, you need to make it quick because nobody wants to sit there and watch necessarily a 2-minute video, but they might. But if you can do a video that captures that job, it gives you that quick virtual tour, that's always good. And that's not only on this contest, that's on your website, that's in marketing, that's in selling. I remember when I was doing the creating separation back in 16, it was saying by 2000, I would do all this research, and it was saying by 2018, 80% of marketing will be videos, you know. And I don't know what the real percentages are, but I was thinking at the time, I was thinking, really? It's going to be that? And you look
Yeah.
at it today, and videos are everywhere. I mean, short and sweet usually is what does it, but yeah, they're in drone shots, things like that, that will really give people a view, because the whole idea is you're trying to really impress these judges with some, creative designs, nice features, clean workmanship. Uh, but again, you got the different categories, so you can't do that much for under 25,000 anymore even on a wood deck, or under 35 for alternative. But you can make the most of every situation.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we're always talking about that. I mean, the video side is so crucial. I'll be honest, like it's tough for us as we're remote. We're not, at the actual office with our clients. It becomes a difficult task, but way we found ways around that is there's just services out there that have big networks of videographers, photographers that can come out. All the different speaking stuff that I do now is I go through a company called Snapper, SNAPPR, and they
Okay.
have videographers you can bring out. I mean, I had some guy just come out at Deck Expo. I will say do some vetting on these guys, because you want to make sure they're good, get a portfolio, because we have had one instance of that. So, but do your due diligence, make sure they're qualified. But that's a great way to get somebody out and come out to your project and have nice photos on the website, your ads, take videos of the owners, the team, in progress pictures. There's a lot of stuff you can do and post that on the website, social media, all that. That's what's going to get you that inside look. I mean, just as Bobby was saying, from, when he was doing it over decade ago, I guess. And the big impact it made then. He was fortunate to be on the very early side and kind of like a trendsetter, I would say there, but now it's becoming the norm. Like everybody needs to have some kind of video. And it's only going to help. If you market it properly, you get a nice video of your deck and you can submit it to NADRA and then you win an award and then you can put that on your website and your marketing or just show it off on your website. I mean, it's going to pay off for you. So I'd definitely recommend, anybody that has a business, start to take that more seriously for sure.
Yeah, and you could even do picture videos. You can get creative now. You can do, before and afters are always really effective or impactful. People see, what existed and how bad it was, and then how creative you were and what
Yeah.
how dramatic the change can be. So even, that with a little music, I mean, there's little ways to do all that. I mean, if you look even on Instagram, if you put photos, you get a few looks, but if you put videos, you get a lot of views.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, stitching together photos as a bare minimum, if you don't have that really high quality content or don't know how to edit it, there's a million apps to put that together. I mean, I think the Instagram app you can make it. I don't know, but so many ways to just stitch something together like you're saying. So, yeah, love all that. And I know we're kind of getting towards the end here, Bobby, but would love to kind of know, like, you've been in the industry for a very long time. I think just about everybody knows you that's gotten involved in some capacity. So what would you say to I don't have the statistics on, like, size of companies of our listeners. I wish I did, but I would imagine there's a lot of younger people that listen to it, and probably quite a few that are trying to grow and maybe get to the million mark or multiple million, whatever. But what would you say to any advice you would have to, I guess, to anybody? You've been at all the levels, but any advice, the game changing strategies that you did, or just things that really stood out to you to help get your business moving forward? Anything you would tell to deck builders right now to make that next jump they need, or become, I guess I'll leave it open, not
Okay.
get too specific, but anything you could add there?
Well, I mean, everybody should keep in mind nobody starts at the top. I mean, I'm not aware of anybody. But you have to. I think you have to be honest with yourself. You have to self-assess. What do you really want your business to be? Do you just want it to be a job so you're not working for somebody else and make good wages, or do you really want to try to build something that's a little, no, but whether it's one crew or five crews, or it's $1 million or $5 million or more, what do you really want to do? And really all it comes down to is your makeup. I think if you have the drive and you're committed to, you can identify where you want to go with it, or where you think you want to go with it, and you have the commitment to do it, the determination to do it, and you can stay open-minded and realize that the building skill alone is not going to get you there. The cleaner you are, the more creative you are from a build standpoint, that's great. Those are kind of foundational things, but you've got to understand that you've got to learn enough about the business uh, to be consistent and to be profitable. And the more, to me, the simpler jobs, if that's your market and you've got to do it, then just be the best doing it. Be clean, take care of your customers. It's not only the importance of the quality of the build, it's the quality of the delivery, the customer experience. Get reviews. Don't. Sometimes I've talked to builders that say, well, I meant to get some, but they never did them. Get reviews. You want to build up reviews, because at some point, if you got all these people you made happy and they didn't do reviews, and then you're going to cross paths with either you did stumble or nobody can make them happy, and they're going to ding you, and you're going to look toxic because none of your stars are lit up, because you had 20 people that could have given you good ones, but they
Yeah.
didn't because you didn't push for it. So, I mean, it's all the basics of business. I'm probably kind of mumbling a lot of this, but it's not that difficult, but it does take some effort. If you want, and look at your business like how it is now. Is that scalable? If it's not scalable, then you haven't fine-tuned it, you haven't tweaked it. It's not as organized as it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that answer. I think you went through a million good things. And the review side, I love that you said that too, because I mean, if you look at it, unless somebody's faking reviews, like there's a direct correlation between size of business and how successful one is and the review count. I wish I had numbers on that, but I've seen it too many times where if I see somebody has, 60 reviews or 100 or 200, and then the competitor has 10 and, bad average rating. It's just, it's not every time, but it's almost every time the case where those bigger companies, the ones with better reviews, better online presence, are going to have a higher revenue, more jobs, more leads. I don't know about better margins or not, but should have the opportunity for better margins just because of the lead flow. So yeah, I can't stress that enough. I mean, everybody's got to get reviews, and like Bobby said, you get one. If you're not persistent with it, you get if you only have 5, 10 reviews or 20, and you get 1 star, that review average goes down a lot more than if you had 50, 100, more than that. So definitely make that a priority. So, but yeah, Bobby, I think that's kind of the I really could go on a lot of other tangents, but I know we got to be conscious of time. But I really do appreciate you coming on here and answering all these questions, and definitely look forward to seeing it future events and things like that. But yeah, anything else you'd like to add, Bobby, before we kind of sign off here?
No, Alex, but I do appreciate you inviting me on here and give me an opportunity to talk and spend a little time with you, and appreciate what you're doing, and wish you the best of luck. And I think you can help. I know you're helping people if they'll listen to what your podcasts are, because you're bringing on the right people, you're sharing the right information, and that's how you grow. I mean, if you go back to my day, you knew what you knew in your local area and what you read. You didn't have the resources that your podcast brings, and
Yeah.
having these good guests on that can bring. So, congrats to you on what you're doing.
I appreciate it, and I really do hope people get a lot of value from it. I try to do our best and get as many great guests like we have today. And going forward, I mean, that's going to be the plan. Just having fun with it, enjoying these conversations, and trying to just pick the brains of everyone that has already seen a success in in the industry. So, and that's basically the plan going forward with the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast. We're back on schedule finally. We got a new system in place to do one every week. So we're a little bit of chaos earlier in the year, but if you have any questions about marketing, anything like that, now is definitely the time to start paying more attention to it. You don't want to wait till spring. So if you have any questions about it, you're curious about different options, feel free to reach out to our website, give us a call there. And yeah, that's it, Bobby. Again, appreciate you coming on here, and sure we'll talk soon.